In Buddhism, the Four Noble Truths form the foundation of the Buddha's teachings. Life involves suffering. Suffering is caused by desire and attachment. Suffering can end, and the path to end suffering is through the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path is a practical guide to ethical living, mental discipline, and wisdom, consisting of right understanding, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. By following this path, one can achieve liberation from suffering and attain nirvana, the ultimate goal in Buddhism. The Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths contain the essence of the Buddha's teachings. It was these four principles that the Buddha came to understand during his meditation under the Bodhi tree. The first noble truth. The truth of suffering. Life involves suffering. Suffering exists in many forms, including physical pain, emotional stress, dissatisfaction, and impermanence. Even happiness is temporary, leading eventually to suffering when it ends. Three obvious kinds of suffering correspond to the first three sights the Buddha saw on his first journey outside his palace: old age, sickness, and death. But according to the Buddha, the problem of suffering goes much deeper. Life is not ideal. It frequently fails to live up to our expectations. Human beings are subject to desires and cravings, but even when we are able to satisfy these desires, the satisfaction is only temporary. Pleasure does not last, or if it does, it becomes monotonous. Even when we are not suffering from outward causes like illness or bereavement, we are unfulfilled, unsatisfied. This is the truth of suffering. Some people who encounter this teaching may find it pessimistic. Buddhists find it neither optimistic nor pessimistic, but realistic. Fortunately, the Buddha's teachings do not end with suffering. Rather, they go on to tell us what we can do about it and how to end it. The second noble truth. The truth of the cause of suffering. The root of suffering is desire or craving, tanha, which stems from ignorance. We suffer because we cling to things, seek pleasure, avoid discomfort, and have attachments to the impermanent. Our day-to-day troubles may seem to have easily identifiable causes: thirst, pain from an injury, sadness from the loss of a loved one. In the second of his noble truths, though, the Buddha claimed to have found the cause of all suffering, and it is much more deeply rooted than our immediate worries. The Buddha taught that the root of all suffering is desire, tanha. This comes in three forms, which he described as the three roots of evil, or the three fires, or the three poisons. The three roots of evil. These are the three ultimate causes of suffering. Greed and desire, represented in art by a rooster. Ignorance or delusion, represented by a pig. And hatred and destructive urges, represented by a snake. Tanha is a term in Pali, the language of the Buddhist scriptures, that specifically means craving or misplaced desire. Buddhists recognize that there can be positive desires, such as desire for enlightenment and good wishes for others. A neutral term for such desires is chanda. The third noble truth, the truth of the end of suffering. It is possible to overcome and end suffering by eliminating desire and attachment. This state of freedom from suffering is called nirvana, where the individual is liberated from the cycle of birth and rebirth. Nirvana. Nirvana means extinguishing. Attaining nirvana, reaching enlightenment, means extinguishing the three fires of greed, delusion, and hatred. Someone who reaches nirvana does not immediately disappear to a heavenly realm. Nirvana is better understood as a state of mind that humans can reach. It is a state of profound spiritual joy without negative emotions and fears. Someone who has attained enlightenment is filled with compassion for all living things. The fourth noble truth, the truth of the path to the end of suffering. The way to overcome suffering is through the Eightfold Path, a practical guideline to ethical conduct, mental discipline, and wisdom. The Eightfold Path is also called the Middle Way. It avoids both indulgence and severe asceticism, neither of which the Buddha had found helpful in his search for enlightenment. The Eightfold Path. One, right understanding. Understand the Four Noble Truths and the nature of reality, including the impermanence of life and the cause of suffering. 2. Right intention. Cultivate the right intentions such as renunciation, goodwill, and harmlessness, steering away from selfish desires and ill will. 3. Right speech. Speak truthfully, avoid lying, gossip, harsh words, or harmful speech. Communication should be kind, honest, and helpful. 4. Right action. Act ethically by avoiding actions that cause harm to others, such as killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. Compassionate behavior is emphasized. 5. Right livelihood. Choose a career that does not harm others. Avoid professions that exploit or cause suffering, like those involved in violence or deception. 6. Right effort. Cultivate a positive and focused mind by eliminating negative thoughts and replacing them with wholesome ones. Avoid laziness or harmful mental states. 7. Right mindfulness. Practice mindfulness by being fully aware of your body, feelings, thoughts, and surroundings. This awareness helps you stay present and avoid becoming overwhelmed by emotions or desires. 8. Right concentration. Develop deep concentration through meditation. Focused attention helps achieve mental clarity, tranquility, and ultimately, insight into reality. By following the Eightfold Path, one can cultivate wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline, leading to liberation from suffering and the attainment of nirvana. The 8 stages can be grouped into wisdom, right understanding and intention. Ethical conduct, right speech, action, and livelihood. And meditation, right effort, mindfulness, and concentration. The Buddha described the Eightfold Path as a means to enlightenment, like a raft for crossing a river. Once one has reached the opposite shore, one no longer needs the raft and can leave it behind. Thanks for watching. Do not forget like, share, and subscribe to the channel.